Welcome to The Real Generation Gap. I'm Rudy Ruiz.
I'm Fred Satilli.
And today we're going to discuss True Grit. It's another Versus episode. We're comparing 1969's John Wayne-led film versus the 2010 Coen Brothers film starring Jeff Bridges. Okay, so you actually came up with this idea to do a comparison of both of these movies. I'm curious why you picked these right now.
I can't remember the moment, but we both wanted to do this. I don't know if I agreed with you or you agreed with me, but it was a real, and I love both of these movies independently and separately as themselves. And I think everybody has to see both of them because the endings are very different. And this is one of these movies where very seldom do I tell the audience to read the book or something, but it's worth it because it's a third version, and it might be the best version. But I mean, I love the Coen Brothers like anything, or Brother, Where Art Thou? Those other movies that they made, and the original one with John Wayne. It's so great. But the reason that we're doing this today is because of Hailee Steinfeld, right? Yeah, not to be confused with Seinfeld. It's Steinfeld.
Because we saw her in Sinners recently.
We just saw her in Sinners a week or two ago. And when I said, we ought to do that True Grit, and you said, oh, yeah, let's do that next. I thought that was the connection.
Yeah, no, same. I figured that might be it.
Yeah, and there's a difference in age. A number of years had gone by, right? It's 15 years. But these are two masterpieces. And they compare well because the style of the direction is so different. The John Wayne movie is light and bright. Everything's in broad daylight. The Coen Brothers, everything is dark, really dark. It's a dark environment, bad weather. There's not a nice day in that movie. And it works. Yeah. It works both ways. They're just both so romantic in a different way.
Yeah,
but still.
To give you guys the plot real quick, in case you haven't seen this, this is a pretty basic revenge movie in a way. It follows Mattie Ross, whose father has been murdered by a man named Tom Chaney. So she goes out and hires someone that she's heard has true grit. And the person she hires is Rooster Cogburn, a kind of drunken marshal with quite the body count. And so they go on an adventure together to go avenge her father's death. Soon they're partnered up with a Texas Ranger named LaBeef, and they're on the hunt. And so I saw True Grit. I think I mentioned this to you. I saw it at a drive-in, but I didn't remember any of it. And it was way too dark. Like, dark movies and drive-ins are not a good idea. Right. So I don't remember anything. And I had been wanting to watch the original, and I haven't gotten around to it yet. So this was the perfect kind of moment to watch them both again. And I love that basic concept. I love a good revenge movie, and there is a nice edge to the fact that it's a young girl that's 13, 14 years old that wants to do this, but she knows she can't do it alone. So she's got to hire this hardened man, to come and kind of help her along her travels.
But see, that's where the poetic I don't know the poetic balance is, because she has true grit.
Yes.
No matter what, she's going, she's fighting. She's like, she doesn't take no for an answer ever.
Yeah.
She's dictating the terms all the way through, like when they try to strand her at the river.
Yeah.
And she gets on Little Blackie, her pony, right?
Yeah.
And fords the river. The horse swims across the river. And she comes up on the other side soaking wet. And it's like, all right, I guess you're coming.
Yeah.
I mean, she just proves herself time and time again.
I love that about it, her perseverance. Yeah. And the title, truthfully, is about her. Sure, I mean, Rooster, he's got grit as well. But we're talking true grit. She exemplifies that trait, that characteristic. And that is something I love about it. And we see how, as the movie goes on, that she earns the respect of both Rooster and LaBeef.
Right. She earns her spurs.
They see that. They see that. And, it gets to a point where they're like, yeah, no, she deserves to be here with us. And,
right. Yeah, she's one of us, really.
Yeah.
Only 14 years old. But see, we're comparing these movies, right? And the great part of it is all six of the people, right? So you have John Wayne and Jeff Bridges, and they both kill the part. Completely different interpretation, but they really do a good job. Then one of the really wonderful people to share our life with, Glenn Campbell. I don't know if you really appreciate, this guy could play the guitar like Jimi Hendrix. I saw him live once on a 4th of July in a concert in the park, and he played like absolutely like wild, and then he played all the popular hits. But in between, he had these like wild distortion solos and incredible guitar technique and everything. And he played the background for all kind of, he toured in the Beach Boys, you know, and he just so rangy as a musician. And in addition to that, he was like an amazing womanizer, you know, so he had like all kind of that going on, like a real star. And he came from humble background, and he was sort of like how Clint Eastwood is just larger than life. He had a TV show, the Glenn Campbell Show.
I wasn't familiar with any of that.
Yeah.
I had read that he was a musician.
Playing Gentle on My Mind, and, you know, and just, oh my God, an amazing man. And then in the modern version, you had Matt Damon. Matt Damon, and he did a terrific job of being the Texas Ranger, you know, and he had the true grit all the way through. He said, "Don't count out the Texas Ranger. You're insulting a Texas Ranger.
Yeah,
you know, you say one more, you can say whatever you want about me, but don't you say that's why I'm wearing my 'Don't Mess with Texas' shirt," right? In honor of that, because he held that part so strong. And then there's Mattie, originally played by Kim Darby, who looked like a 14-year-old girl. And she just was, she was the accountant in her father's company, the bookkeeper at age 14, and connected with her lawyer. And she knew that the lawyer had formidable power.
Yeah.
And she used it, you know, you're breaking the contract if you do this. You and I have an agreement, and this is how it's going to go. And if not, you're going to hear from my lawyer, and he'll take you out.
Yeah, she really wielded him like
they even
like
said it. She wields him like a gun, you know. And then of course Hailee Steinfeld, just all 6 of those parts by all 6 of those actors killed those 3 parts.
Yeah,
they killed it. You know, you couldn't do better, and yet they're different people in a different setting. And wow,
when I look at all their, you know, comparing all their performances, I don't know that there's any one that I can say is tremendously better than the other. I like everyone's portrayal. John Wayne, I mean, I've never been that much into John Wayne movies, so I don't have a lot to pull from in that regard, but I think he is good in this movie. He won an Oscar for it, but from what I've kind of heard, even he felt he didn't deserve it for this movie, which is interesting.
He did deserve it.
From the other films of his that I have seen, of which there's only been a few, this one he does do things a little bit differently. He's a lot different from his character in Rio Bravo or Stagecoach, you know, and so I do like him. One thing I will say, though, is it feels like he plays up the humor just a little bit, especially in the first kind of act and a half of the movie, whereas Jeff Bridges, I feel, plays it pretty straight and consistent throughout. There's humor in the performance, but I don't think he's trying to amp it up, whereas with John Wayne, I feel like he's trying to be a little funnier. Again, mostly in the first half of the movie. Nothing wrong with that. Just an interesting kind of difference, I thought. So, I mean, yeah, they're both great. When we get to Kim Darby and Hailee Steinfeld, Kim Darby, I think, was already 21 at the time.
Right, 21.
And she looks the part. Hailee Steinfeld was 13 or 14, and this is the movie that put her on the map. And now since then, she's been in a lot of other films. And again, I really like both of them. I think Hailee comes across a little more cold, and I'll get into, I think, some of the reasons for that a little bit later. But they're both great, and they really teeter that line, man, of being insufferable. Like when the movie started, you know, obviously I watched them in the old and then the new. I was really like, oh man, I have a feeling I'm not gonna like this character, and if I don't buy into Mattie Ross, if I'm not on her side, I'm going to hate this movie.
Yeah.
And she could have very easily gone a certain, you know, too much of that now that we would call it girl boss kind of thing.
Yeah, well, see, that's the problem with society today. See, you're actually ready for an inappropriately, like an empowered with no power. But she's not empowered with no power. She's got her real true grit.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like leftism power, like women, like a, you know, and they didn't have that yet then. They couldn't vote. You know, this is a period piece. And before we get too far from that analysis, when you say John Wayne was kind of made his part funnier, which he did do, the book is even funnier. Like his character is supposed to be like a comic relief guy. Okay. You know, kind of like Lee Marvin in Cat Ballou.
Right.
You know, so he's that. And I think it's the fact that the Coen Brothers, when they did it with Jeff Bridges, they made their guy. Yeah. You know, he's a Terminator, you know, compared to the lighthearted, you know, the kind of town drunk John Wayne, the kind of, and it's funny in all these Western movies, for some reason, they always shoot a bottle. Right.
Yeah,
some kind of thing.
I was just like, man, you guys are wasting all your food. They're just like throwing bread
they were
out
throwing the biscuits
I'm over here like, come on, guys. But yeah, I mean, she really is on that edge, but it never goes that way to being insufferable. I'm with her all the way through. I like that there's these challenges and she's got to overcome them when she's the way she has to deal. And that she's a very intelligent person. And she's over here bargaining with the horse guy and has her lawyer on her side. And, you know, you can tell that obviously this is a world where a lot of people can easily take advantage of her or think they can, but she doesn't allow that to happen. And I like that. And it seems real. It's not like they just did it to do it because the plot deemed it so, or that other people have to be weakened in order for her to be that way.
That's right.
It's just believable to me. And it doesn't diminish any of the other characters.
She holds her own.
Yeah. And
at one point, I think it was the Matt Damon one. He said, I was thinking of stealing a kiss from you. Now I'm thinking of spanking you. She says, either would be equally revolting.
Yeah. You know? Yeah. And even that, I like that they didn't shy away from that moment where and you already mentioned the river, love that scene that she just goes for it. And then you see where I love when John Wayne's watching her and she's like, man, she reminds me of myself. Right. And then LaBeef is like, I don't think we're going to get along then. He really just already doesn't like her. And you know, there is that moment, and you got to stick with the period, right? Where there is the fact that she's like talking back to these elder guys and these lawmen. And when LaBeef does like push her down and hits her, which I was wondering if that was going to be omitted from the newer one. Right. And I'm glad it wasn't. I wonder if it was going to come out in post 2020, if it would be omitted. And that would be disingenuous, I think. Right. Because the fact is, it was the times, you know, and that's what it is. But again, her kind of earning her way. I love when she says, like, are you going to let him do this? And when John Wayne or Jeff Bridges, I guess Rooster, takes out his gun, and he's like, no, I don't think I will. And he tells LaBeef, like, yeah, she earned her way here. She crossed. We did what we had to do to stop her. She made it anyway. She's going to come. Right. Like she earned it. And I like that, you know, that kind of dynamic. And then how later it almost kind of reverses when Rooster's kind of over it and almost doesn't want to complete the mission anymore. And LaBeef says, and you did the quote, like, she earned her spurs. Right. You know, and now he sees it like, you know, like it or not, she's earned her place. For me.
It's kind of interesting when you have three people. One person has an undying commitment, right? And as the other two begin to lose the enthusiasm one at a time for separate reasons, for different, you know, in different things, she's the one who stays the course. Mm-hmm. She's keep them on track. And because she does that, they both stay begrudgingly. Mm-hmm. It's like, well, if you're staying, I'm staying. Yeah. You know, and then he's the same way. It's like, all right, I'll exile, I'll leave, you two go. But he doesn't leave. He stays right over the next hill. Mm-hmm. And when they need the Marines to come in, all of a sudden he's there. It's really beautiful.
Yeah. And they still show her naive qualities at times. It's not like she's just an adult, like walking among them. Like there's a lot of moments and times where you see like, oh yeah, she is just a kid. And the way she reacts to certain things that are happening around her, she is hardened to some degree.
Yeah, he says you have to be realistic. We're camping here tonight. We're not, we can't, you know, it's like, there's still daylight. Let's go. It's like, this is where we need to be. This is the, you know, strategically or, you know, something like that. And that's really cool. One of the really touching moments is when she falls in the hall and John Wayne's got to get her in. She's got the snake bite, right? And he's got to get her out. And all of a sudden, LaBeef, who had been hit in the head, he gathers his energy and everything and pulls him out of the hole and then dies. Mm. And John Wayne says, he saved my life twice, and once after he was already dead.
Yeah.
And man, that's, talk about honor.
Yeah. The other sad thing with that too, and just the reality of that time period, is when they have to leave him, and Mattie even says, like, aren't we going to bury him? And he's like, we can't. There's no time. You have to get to a doctor. And the fact that they just have to leave his body out there. And I love too, this was a good moment when they get into that hut and they kill Dennis Hopper and that other guy, Emmett and Moon.
Yeah. Oh, and the fact that Robert Duvall and Dennis Hopper are in the movie.
Yeah.
Like, everybody's young. Everybody's really young.
But you know how he's telling Rooster, Dennis Hopper, Moon knows he's going to die. My brother is this pastor. He's over here. Bury me. Tell them what happened. And he's about to not do it. And then Mattie calls him out and is like, no, you said you would bury him. He's like, oh, I don't remember the lines, but something about, I don't even remember where. And she's like, nope, his brother is this person and he's in this town.
Oh yeah. She always has the accounting.
Yeah.
She's always making the books balance at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's like, that stuff matters. And I like that moment there kind of sets it up to be more dramatic later when LaBeouf does have to be just left behind, And
right. Yeah.
It makes me think of the remake of Dawn of the Dead where, so a couple people know.
A lot of things make you think of Dawn of the Dead.
But there's a moment where, people are dying and they're like safe in the mall and someone passes away and they're like, well, did anybody get their name? And they're like, no. And one of the guys takes his hat off and he's like, died without a name. Damn. like that. But yeah, it's a real bummer. And it sounds like you read the book. In the remake, he doesn't die. He ends up taking the body back. And I believe that's true in the book too, right? He survives.
Right.
And he takes the body of Chaney back to Texas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and collects the reward.
Yeah.
Because he's a ranger.
Right.
But the other funny thing about burying somebody that happened in the movie, John Wayne says, well, we'll give you a decent burial or something. And then the guy dies and he says, let's go. She says, we promised to bury him. He goes, the ground's too hard. If he wanted to be buried, he should have died in the summer.
Right. Yeah, that's right.
Should have died when there was better weather.
Yeah. That was the one that was hanging, I think, right? That whole scene.
Oh, that was an ugly scene.
Yeah.
That was really an ugly scene.
Yeah.
The doctor guy, the guy with the bear head, who was the doctor, he says, I took his teeth. If you want to make an offer on the rest of the body, like, oh, man.
That's the part that felt the most Coen Brothers to me, was that little scene.
Right,
just
the
like
bear
the kind
guy.
of quirkiness of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, man, where's this guy coming from? Where's he going? Like, just the mystery of that. Just the idea of they're in the wilderness and, first they cross paths with the Native American, then they cross paths with the bear guy. And I like that there's a moment where she says, like, what's that gunshot? And man, Rooster, he's been out in the mix for years.
Oh yeah.
He's like, oh yeah, I told the Indian to fire a shot if someone was following us. And so now, all right, we're going to post up and wait for him to catch up and ask him what's good. And they think it's going to be LaBeouf, and it ends up being this doctor guy. And even the doctor is like, yeah, I traded the body to an Indian back there.
Right.
Like, just what a crazy time.
Yeah, he told me he came upon the body in an honorable way or something. He told him, like, he didn't kill him, But there are a lot of things in the John Wayne one. I want to give a shout out to Strother Martin. The actor Strother Martin, because he was the warden in Cool Hand Luke.
Yeah.
And I wondered if you'd ever seen Cool Hand Luke. Mm-hmm. Good, because if you didn't, we're doing that next week. That kind of a masterpiece.
Yeah.
So whether, between Dennis Hopper and Robert Duvall, that was Strother Martin, too, was another, like, just an actor. A lot of these guys were just actors.
Yeah.
And the other actor that I want to point out, John Fielder, he was the lawyer. He was J. Noble Daggett. She says, my lawyer, J. Noble Daggett.
Yeah, he was one of the actors from 12 Angry Men, right?
Yes, that's right.
He had like the kind of the high pitched voice.
He was in that, but also because I am the ultimate Star Trek fan, he was in an episode of Star Trek. He was the embodiment of the spirit of Jack the Ripper. And he was like killing everybody on the spaceship and laughing about it and stuff. And they had to beam him off they had to just beam him off into space. He was pure evil.
Yeah.
It was like, wow, pure evil exists. It's looking for embodiment. Like, it's out there in space and it's looking for a body to inhabit. So inhabits him, you know? And usually he plays a comic actor. I think he did voiceover for like Winnie the Pooh, you know.
That sounds about right, yeah.
Right, something. Yeah, that squeaky voice.
Yeah.
You know, there were aspects of the movie that you sort of have to appreciate the time. Lucky Ned Pepper, when he wants to get away, he retreats into Indian territory. So it's a whole nother country. Like when you're in there, like it's like we don't have authority to be here. It's the Wild West where the guns are talking. There's no badges in the Indian territory, right? And the other thing that's like that was Mattie was extremely location proud. I'm from Arkansas. I'm from Yall County. Back then, this is before 1933. So back then, everybody was a state citizen. And then the states were united under the Federation of the United States, but people were very, very aware of their state. Like in that one Clint Eastwood movie, Josie Wales, where the woman's like, never much liked people from Missouri. You know, he would like, what? You know, there was a tremendous sense because the Old West, they didn't even have all the states yet. There were territories and, you know, like that, right? So people were state citizens. And now in our modern time, we've lost that. We're just all United States citizens. We're federalized, you know, the states really don't matter anymore. And that's wrong because the states are supposed to have an independent identity. And that way you can move to the state where you like the way the law is administered or written or whatever. So if you have a social issue and one state allows it and the other one doesn't, well, you belong there.
Right.
You know, that this homogenization isn't good. It's good to have everybody competing. It's good to have different ideas. We do our healthcare this way. You do your healthcare that way. All of a sudden, everybody's moving to this state because better healthcare. Now, you know, even for us now, everybody's leaving California and moving to Texas because the business environment is so much better that it's something you want to do. This is why you need states.
Right.
You don't want each individual to be the same. You have you, me, Frank. We're very different.
Yeah.
Right? And you want that. If everybody agrees, there's no point in talking to anybody. Right? You need that. You need not conflict, but you need a different view, different opinion, a different, you know, a different experience. You don't want everybody to have the same experience, the same outcome. People are cut out for different careers. You don't want everybody has to do this. Everybody has to learn this. It's not right. So a movie back from that period, they got a lot of the period in there, the Old West period. People were, their heritage, you know, they had all this dignity. It was really great. I think it's better. And we have better technology, but somehow they had a better culture. And it's hard to realize that because most of them were gunslingers.
Right, yeah.
But they sure were polite, weren't they?
I guess it depends.
You know.
I want to dig a little bit into just kind of the stylistic differences. You know, one's from 1969, one's from 2010. Quite a long period of time has elapsed. And I was a little surprised, to be honest, that the Coen Brothers one felt way closer to the original than I had anticipated. And then I had to rethink, okay, it's not necessarily that they're just remaking an older movie. It's that they're adapting it from the same source material, which is the novel, right? So it's like, okay, of course it's going to be the same. Because there's a lot that's like line for line.
Oh, they did a lot of identical lines.
Yeah. You know, and one thing I will say with just the stylistic kind of differences is, you know, we talked about this before. I don't watch a lot of old American Westerns. It's on my list of things to do. And because I just prefer the grittiness.
You're a horror guy.
Yeah.
Deep down in there, you know.
Well, I prefer
it's funny because you're the happiest smiling guy ever.
That might have something to do with it. That helps me.
Yeah, right. That's the release.
Yeah.
Right.
But, you know, we talked about this. I like a lot of Italian spaghetti Westerns and anything like with Ennio Morricone music and just the scope. And they had such a different vision for that cinematically that, to me, a lot of the American films, they feel a little more like stock by the numbers, if that makes sense. And it doesn't have the gravitas of, you know, like a Leone movie. And
yeah, Leone movie is grittier.
Yeah. In particular, like the music does a lot of that too. Like Ennio Morricone is on a whole other level compared to the scores and the big major key.
Wait,
you know, that you get.
Hold on
in
a second.
American Western. Yeah.
Yeah. The John Wayne one, the soundtrack was from Elmer Bernstein.
Yeah.
And he, the guy who did the Magnificent Seven.
Yeah. And so I also don't care for that score. Sorry.
I bow down. I really do.
And it was nominated for Best Music and Original Song for an Oscar. But yeah, I just like kind of the darker and the tones and the electric guitar you'd get in the other stuff. And I mean, it looks like a Western of that period. And True Grit has the cinematography of Roger Deakins. So that's just on another special level.
It's almost postcard.
Yeah.
You know, the scenes are so like,
which is nice. And because of changes in technology and the, you know, film stocks, they were able to do a lot more of the night exteriors, a little more realistic perhaps in True Grit. I'd say, like, lean into it more. Because back in the day, like, those cameras did not do well at night, especially if you're shooting in the woods, you know?
Right.
Stuff like that.
Yeah.
But
and plus the effects, like back then when you got a gunshot, like you didn't even bleed.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, you
you
know, with the Coen Brothers, they could pretty much show the flesh ripping open and you felt the heat of the bullet, you know.
Mm-hmm. One of the other big differences for me that I think gives the original a little more edge is it is 20 minutes longer. It clocks in about 2 hours, 8 minutes, whereas the Coen Brothers one is about an hour 50, an hour 45, somewhere in there. So they definitely streamlined it a bit more, which I like and appreciate. But I think we got more of the relationship between Mattie and Rooster in the original.
Yes. There's
a lot more of them when she goes to his place and they're eating dinner with Chen and the cat, you know, Sir, whatever his name is. They kind of skip a lot of that in the Coen Brothers one.
Wait a second. You're glossing over General Sterling Price.
That was his name. Okay,
General Sterling. Yes. Now the actor that played General Sterling Price was a cat named Orangey.
Okay.
Yes, and he appears heavy in the movie.
Yeah.
Like he has 3 scenes where he's you know, part of the thing, almost more than Lee Chen.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to let you get away with that. You know, I'm a big cat lover.
Yeah, I did like him. And when they shoot the rat and she throws it out and then the cat goes after it. Yeah, that was your job in the first place. You know, and I like when a movie is streamlined and to the point, but I think it really benefits from having more of the dialogue between Mattie and Rooster before they go on the adventure to kind of sell and help build a relationship. I felt like that was missing. And the fact that, I mean, and it is expository, right? Because we do see more of her talking to, well, period, like talking to her
negotiation dad. And with the horse trader, right? So she has to deal with you know, and even
that was pretty to me, like shot for line, almost exactly the same. I felt her with the horse trader guy.
Oh, there was more in the John Wayne.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
They shortened that up a little bit. I was a little bit disappointed in that because, as you said, what you just said, the character development wasn't as much.
Yeah.
You know, you didn't get that really full measure of Mattie.
Yeah.
Quite yet.
Like we see her with her father, we see her deal with more with Rooster and all that, and she dealt with her father in the John Wayne one, but not in the other one. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Right.
Yeah, and John Wayne.
Yeah.
In the Coen Brothers one, the opening shot is the father already dead and her narrating.
Right.
So she kind of sets it up through voiceover, whereas we see these things happen. They're showing us in the John Wayne one, and I think building the relationship sooner benefits the rest of the story for me. I buy it more that they've become tight and have this bond because I got to see a little more of them together early on before they even left the place, you know?
Now, the effect of that for me is transmitted to the end, because in the end of the John Wayne one, he comes to her home and she says, "This is my father's grave and this is our family's, you know, cemetery area or whatever." She says to him, "I would like you to be buried alongside me when we pass." And that made me cry.
Yeah.
And it reminded me to take this to another planet. This reminded me in Game of Thrones when Arya Stark says to the Hound, when the Hound realizes that he's not going to get the ransom money, he says, I should have just raped you bloody and left you on the side of the road instead of caring for you through all these battles and everything. And she says, "Well, you couldn't." And he says, "Why not?" And she says, because you love me. That also made me cry. You know what I mean? That relationship was like unstated but ironclad. And it was that same kind of thing. And then he does the greatest thing ever to conclude the movie. She says, here's this horse. He can jump a 4-rail fence. And John Wayne says, well, catch up with me, somewhere down the road. And he jumps on the horse and rides in this circle and leaps over the 4-rail fence. That's real, like the American cow. That's what you're talking about. That's the stock, American yeehaw cowboy, like waving his hat as he, goes off. And that would have never been in The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
Right, yeah. Yeah. It was a very sweet moment, and that is, very much, there's your Hollywood happy ending. Now, I like the Coen Brothers one, I think, more. I think I like the somber tone of it more, where, she lost her arm because of that snake bite.
And when you first see her without the arm.
Yeah.
And,
And not only that, but she goes on to explain that, like, she was, passed out when she got to the doctors and woke up, arm gone, and Rooster was gone. And she goes on to talk about how, like, I never saw him again. Right. I have no idea, never saw LaBeef again. Yeah.
Right.
Didn't see, I sent him a letter. I don't know what became of him. And then the fact that there's something sad too about how she's clearly like a very cold, unhappy adult, and maybe there's something to say about just
little PTSD.
Yeah. And just vengeance and not being satisfied, and just how it can impact you, whatever. There's a lot of ways to read into that, I suppose. But when she goes to find him, finds out he's been part of this traveling circus, whatever it was. And
she tries to catch up with him.
And he died just 3 days earlier, and she never got to see him.
But what she does do is she has the body exhumed from wherever because she's in the original one. She says, I don't want you just buried by on the side of the road or by some bushes. You take that body and you put it next to me. We put it in my graveyard and I'll go, and that's also very touching.
Yeah. Yeah. She moves it.
She had integrity. She made 2 attempts. First of all, when she was snake bit, she wanted to bury LaBeef. Yeah. Because he died, where in the other movie he didn't. Okay. And then when they jumped on the only horse they had, which was her pony, Little Blackie, and they're riding, and she says, you have to stop now. Little Blackie's run out. You're going to kill him. And he says, we have to run him out. Yeah. Every last step, because when the horse drops dead, he picks her up and carries her himself. Yeah. Which is a different ending. And fortunately, he finds some people, and they're able to give her enough medical attention, that she physically survives. But she cares for LaBeef than the horse. She's self-giving. She shows that she demands to have things her way. But when it comes to doing the right thing by others, she tries to always do the right thing by both of them. She's trying to rehabilitate the drinking and to help the Texan with his issues. And the movie is so great. Both of them are great. You need to see both of them and read the book, and then you know. Then you know the story of True Grit. And what a fantastic title for a movie. Yeah, it really is. Yeah. I mean, there's just that's it. That's it. And, or for a book, I really appreciated that. I really think that the title, a lot of success in life comes from a name. I don't think that the Lexus car would have sold as better if they would have called it, the bump wagon. That people would have been like, yeah, it's good, I guess, but I'm not driving a bump wagon. But Lexus kind of indicates luxury. And so people want that, right? I think people's names and the names of products and all, and man, True Grit, wish I'd written it. I really do. I have a couple little things to say, but let's start with which one would you recommend for someone who hasn't seen either of these, hasn't read the book? Which one would you recommend they watch first? That's a brutal question. Yeah. That's a complete toss up. That would depend on the individual. Right. If it was you, I'd have you watch the Coen Brothers. If it was a 14-year-old girl, I'd have her watch the John Wayne one. Interesting. Yeah. Why? Because one is grittier than the other. One's more horrifying than the other. One is a little gentler.
Yeah.
The delivery is a little gentler. The Coen brother ending is harder to deal with.
Yeah.
There's more angst and everything. Where, like you said, the John Wayne one, there's a happy cowboy ending, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, for a nice person, John Wayne, somebody like you, I would put it.
Yeah.
What a terrible thing.
See, no, it's so funny though, because I was thinking about this a lot all week and of that very question. And I think for me, if I'm going to recommend this to people who aren't familiar with them both, man, I want to say the 69 one, man. And that's coming from somebody who likes a little more violence and who, I mean, granted, trust me, I wish so badly this was a Sam Peckinpah film. If this was directed by Sam, and mind you, this came out the same year as The Wild Bunch. I was like, I just want the Sam Peckinpah. If he could have directed this and had all the squibs and blood, that would have been awesome. So I do like that, but yet still, I think I want to say the original. For me, I think primarily it has to do with the character development aspect of it. I think just works a little more for me, even though it's a little longer. Yeah,
that's a very good observation. Yeah, that did matter, does matter, and I think you're right. Do you have another issue? Are we going to make a different kind of comparison?
Oh, you want to rate it?
How can you? How can you?
It's 2 thumbs up, huh?
Yeah, it's just so great. Both of them are great. They're great separately and together. If you only went through your life seeing either one, you would see a great movie. You see them both. It's almost too good to be true. I usually don't like remakes too much. Sometimes they're great, and this is a great remake of a great movie.
Yes, that is the kind of conflicting.
Let me say it this way: I rate them equally.
Yeah.
So if you're going to give it an 8, they're both 8s. If you're going to give it a 10, they're both 10s. If you're going to,
that's what for me. I find I have internal conflict about this because I almost feel that besides it being modern, like it's a 2010 movie, it's so close to 69 to where there is a degree of like, why did this have to be remade? And also the Coen Brothers, I don't know that I feel it really has their stamp on it all the way through. It feels like anyone could have gone and done it, perhaps. Maybe I'm way wrong, and you can take me to task on that if you want. And I understand it's closer to the book, so there's that. But yeah, I don't know. All that, they are both good.
I don't care that it's closer to the book. They're 3 separate entities.
No, I know. I'm just pointing that out for our audience. I mean, I think that's all I got for this one. Good movies.
I think we're out.
Yeah.
I think we're out.
Yeah.
Help us out, subscribe, all that stuff, groveling for algorithmic superiority here or something, I guess. Or God, I hate that. Everyone.
Yeah, you don't have to say it.
Doesn't everybody know to do that?
Yeah, that's why I never say it.
It's in every video. Everything you see. You want to watch something on YouTube 2-3 times throughout, they're going to give you that.
Yeah, for sure.
I think it's pollution.
No, I agree. That's why I don't bring it up.
All right, I'm sorry. I apologize to everybody, and we'll see you next time.
Cheers.